Hello, my name is Annika Lundqvist. I'm the founder of Pedestrian Space, and we are developing a urban heat pilot for 2027, which has taken shape over the past month as I've been promoting it. We've gotten a phenomenal response, which speaks to also the enormity of the problem and the issue. But I've been really grateful to be getting so many people writing for collaboration and academic internships and research collaborations. And I'm sitting here today with Gunjit, who is one of the people that reached out. Gunjit is a student at the Institute for Political Studies in the Master in Governing the Large Metropolis program. Really interesting. So that's in Paris, but you're from Delhi. And I was telling Gunjit before we began recording, I really just love the way you reached out. Very thoughtful, very insightful writing. The way you speak about urban heat is also really interesting. Before we started recording, we were discussing issues of urban heat, and you mentioned that urban heat is personal. And you use language that makes perfect sense to me, but I actually hadn't heard many people speak about urban heat in this way. So I think that's really important because it's also very down to earth, and people can, I think, connect with what you're saying. So I would love to turn it over to you and hear a bit more about that, about heat being personal.
Yes, thank you so much, Annika. Thank you for having this conversation. I really like the Urban Heat Pilot Program. I came across it on a LinkedIn post, and again, as rightly as you said, uh, I think heat, like unlike other urban problems, is deeply personal and is meshed with intersections of age, of class, of gender, particularly. Different people experience heat differently. There can be no uh, major generalization, even though we have numbers, yes, but they are a signal. They do not accurately capture will a 75-year-old retired couple, or not even a couple, we could imagine even far more precarious situation, a 75-year-old widower living alone in a house, like a lot of people do in France, when a lot of seniors unfortunately died back in the heat wave that was 2020, 2002, I think 2003 heat wave, where a lot of seniors unfortunately died because old people experience heat very differently because bodies are very different. So this element of experiencing our body of this personal experience. And then uh, when we go from the personal to the community, these two aspects are very important. Apart from, yes, we need architectural solution, we need infrastructural solution, we need uh, green, blue, nature-based solutions to reduce the urban heat island effect. But community is often an overlooked part that can be very important because it is because we can build heat resilient homes, but it is always good that a community is close knit. A community has the resilience that it checks up on its uh, on its uh, on its senior population, on on mothers who are expecting, people, especially who are children, offer them cold water, offer a respite from heat, for example, whether there is a green space. We can build green spaces to reduce urban heat, but the point is they will not be utilized unless we have a community that is actively participating in that green space, coming together, for example, in the evening, discussing what we can do to effectively manage heat for children, for women, for seniors, for sick people, for persons with reduced mobility. So it is important that we talk about our personal experiences. It is important to share. It is important to share knowledge, of course, and the policy that is made by people like me, you, and other policymakers in the government, it will not be translated well unless it is done through a community network that can offer its own unique experiences, because we cannot know the experiences of millions of people experiencing heat, but a community is a very good intermediate to translate that experience, to translate policy that is being sent from above, but also to offer their own criticisms, constructive criticisms, offer their own innovative ways that they can do. So it is also important to give them leeways, to have some aspect where the community can decide this type of heat resilient works for me, specifically in my area for my people. So I think it's important, like the main point is it important to not to not have a community versus technical solution debate. It is important to mix both of them together and have a fusion to solve the urban heat problem.
Absolutely. I like what you wrote too when you wrote me about the internship you wrote. For me, this internship offers a fresh view on urban heat resilience, focusing not solely on infrastructural solutions, but also centering the community at its forefront with education, engagement, and experiences. Basically, everything you just expanded on too. And I really like that because at Pedestrian Space, I say that we operate at the intersection of media, communication, research, and advocacy. And so everything you're describing is exactly how I like to operate with community engaged research, capturing residents' experiences, observations, talking about what works for them, talking about what doesn't work for them. So I really appreciate that. I also liked before we were recording, I was sharing with you about how we're going to be developing this network approach to really basically take advantage of the fact that so many people have responded to this pilot. And just
Yep.
like you, there's super interesting people, interesting locations, really passionate and engaged on these topics. So I really felt this network approach would be great. And I liked how you responded to it as well. It's always good to hear how potential collaborators and future collaborators see the approach. So what do you think? You mentioned that you like the idea that it will allow for comparison of different cities and solutions and co-learning, but can you share anything else about what you think about this network approach to this urban heat pilot that we're developing and issues of heat and resilience?
Yes, as you mentioned, adding on to the point of co-learning, I think, as I said, this is also a very community based way of approaching heat resilience because there are people sitting in higher echelons of the government making their heat policy, disaster management policies as we speak, some good, some not good as others. But it is important that we also we also complement that knowledge, that government knowledge with our practitioner from academics, from experts, from students, from researchers who are somewhere in the middle because they are not a lot of us we are not well off to be able to afford and live all the time in air conditioned houses. So we have personal experiences, but we also have the academic learnings and the concepts behind it to be able to also translate our experience into actionable policies or to be able to translate this knowledge also to other people who may not have the who who experience the problem but they do not know how to yet translate it into the academic knowledge that we know because the as I mentioned in my mail, like urban heat is a disaster problem, and disaster education is unfortunately not that well versed among the people because people often think of disasters as a natural thing. But I really like what the the disaster risk UNDRR office says. There are no natural disasters. So it is important to think of urban heat as a man-made problem, as a city-specific problem that can be solved. And because unless people realize that this is a man-made problem, we'll continue to say, oh, it's the summer, let's just go somewhere else and do anything. But it is important to understand the mechanism behind it. And this network-based approach can help their own local communities understand it. That can hopefully translate into better outcomes in their own communities, municipal, regional, or national level, hopefully.
Yeah, I have to agree with everything you say. It's great to hear you speak about these things so eloquently, and I feel in such both a sophisticated but also practical way, which is what I think we need. I also appreciate that. phrasing of no natural disasters and looking at urban heat as an issue that we've created, that we're contributing to, and dealing
Yeah.
with that
Yeah.
level of knowledge. So thank you. I am very much looking forward to collaborating with you and developing this network approach together. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Anika. Looking forward to it. Thank you.